in June 2017, these countries imposed an embargo on Qatar. Their relations had been bad already since the beginning of the Arab Spring in 2011, but even worse in 2013. The Qataris, like the Turks, had supported the Morsi administration in Egypt, and the UAE and Saudi Arabia were dead set against Muslim Brotherhood rule in Egypt, and in fact, eventually financed the subversion of that government and bringing it down and bringing in Sisi into power. It reached a culmination in 2014. It went down a little bit, and then in 2017, as I said, it broke off. They put the embargo on, and the embargo was really based on both on geopolitical considerations, but also on almost personal political considerations between the Qatari leadership and especially the Emirati and Saudi leadership.
Now, Al Jazeera, I know, played a role in some of their grievances as well. The voice that Qatar was having in all these countries seemed to be the dominant voice at many times during, as you mentioned, the Arab Spring here. But was this another U.S. diplomatic breakthrough in the region? Are we witnessing that?
So the short answer is yes, and the longer answer is yes and no. Since 2017, I think, as you pointed out, this embargo has not worked very well. In fact, it sort of pushed Qatar further and further into the arms of Turkey and Iran. And Qatar is actually, the Qatari economy has not suffered much since those embargoes because, as I said, they shifted a lot of their air travel and a lot of their trade through Iran. The Turkish position became stronger and stronger. Turkish put military forces, built a military base there. And in fact, to a large extent, from the point of view of Saudi Arabia and the UAE, the embargo of Qatar did not fulfill goals. In fact, seems to be a fairly significant failure. Now, the Qataris felt it quite badly. And for the Qataris, they have been pushing for a long time to get rid of this embargo. But more in terms of just their feeling of being isolated in the region, their feeling of not being able to travel easily to countries that previously have been their close neighbors. But in fact, it hasn't suffered very much. On the other hand, the other side, the fact that they put on an embargo that didn't work very well is something that harmed, to a certain extent, their international and regional position.
Now, in terms of Qatar's relevance to Israel here for our viewers, we know they've become really the main brokers with Gaza and Hamas there. But in terms of Iran and Turkey, where do they factor in most relevantly for Israel?
Right. So I think that there's I'm going to step back 1 second. There's a difference between the UAE and Egypt on this issue and the Saudi Arabia. For Saudi Arabia, the Iranian issue is the most important issue. And there are a lot of other issues which are sort of simmering in the region, but not particularly succeeding. And I think that the Saudi administration wants to extinguish these because they want to concentrate on Iran going into the new American administration. For the UAE and Egypt, Iran is not as big a threat. The bigger threat is the Muslim Brotherhood and political Islam in general. So what I think this is going to do for us is it's maybe removing something that was taking a degree of attention from our Gulf, we could say allies, and enable them to concentrate more on some other issues. Regarding Hamas, so the UAE apparently and the Saudis have, to a certain extent, also tried to or reported to try to develop relations with Hamas. The Qatar relationship with Hamas is the strongest. But in fact, Israel has been using that Qatar relationship with Hamas to promote its own interests in averting a collapse there. So I think that there's a possibility that the Qatar relationship with Israel will be better. Though, as I said, what Israel needed Qatar for, Israel's been able to figure it out. I think that one of the important things for us when we're looking at it sort of in a geopolitical point of view is we want our Gulf allies and our other allies to be concentrated on the threat of Iran and, to a certain extent, on the potential threat of Turkey. And Qatar was sort of deflecting us from this. Now, what this means for the Qatar relationship with Turkey is not at all clear. The Qataris have not apparently given any undertaking to break a relationship with Turkey. I don't think they will, because Turkey is probably their closest ally in the region.